Warning, do not pay off your mortgage. In the UK, the dream is to have your mortgage paid off by the time you're 192, so you can enjoy your 17 minutes of retirement. And there's a much better way. Now, a lot of people get sensationalist or angry or upset with me when I talk about why you shouldn't pay off your mortgage. They don't understand the difference between interest only and capital repayment. They don't understand how inflation affects both debt and interest and prices. And the dream you've been sold is one from the systems and the banks, because the banks want you in debt so you continue to pay interest and taxes with compliance. So I'm going to share with you 5 big reasons why you should not pay off your mortgage. Now, number 3 and number 5 are the really big ones. And these are the ones that a lot of people do not understand. Okay, so reason number 1 why you probably shouldn't pay off your mortgage. Well, actually, let me just say that this isn't financial advice. It's not a disclaimer. It's my financial knowledge and experience. I have 345 rental units over nearly 20 years of being an entrepreneur. I became a millionaire before age 31. I'm now 46 plus VAT. I'm a dinosaur in this world. So I'm just giving you my experience as what's worked for me, and I'm practicing what I preach. So at the moment, depending on when you're watching this, mortgage rates are very low relative to their normal average. They're a good couple of % under their average. So basically, mortgage is pretty much the cheapest form of debt. Now, there's good debt and bad debt. And good debt is money that is pretty low interest, and you invest in assets or produces income, or you can beat the return of the cost of debt. And then bad debt is buying liabilities or depreciating assets, or it costing you every month. At the moment, if you're paying your mortgage down, then you might have an interest rate of 4% or in the 4%. But you could have got 11.5 to 12% in the stock market for the last 15 years. So if you're struggling to repay your mortgage at 4%, but you could have got 12% in another asset class. Now, of course, the last 15 years doesn't dictate the next 15, but it could. Then you have what's called an opportunity cost of that money. All that extra money you're on a repayment mortgage and you're overpaying, you could have put into an investment property or the S&P 500, FTSE 100 in Vanguard Life Strategy Fund, which has done over 11% a year. I invest in the 100% equity accumulator Vanguard Life Strategy Fund. That's one of my main funds that I invest in. It's spread nicely, emerging markets, S&P 500, FTSE 100. So I'd have lost on double-digit returns every year if I'm repayment mortgage or paying down my mortgage. So that's a big reason why actually it's more expensive to pay down your mortgage than it is to invest that money. Okay, so the second point of 5 is that the more you pay off on your mortgage, the more opportunity lost in other asset classes. And when you take the average 25-year mortgage, let's say you've slaved for 25 years and now you own a home. And if that was 200, then 400, then 500 grand. But you're probably going to pay 2.5 times the value of your mortgage in repaying the house. So if it was a 200 grand house that went to 500 grand, if you had a 150 grand mortgage, you might end up paying 375, 400, maybe more in interest and repayment. Imagine if you'd been able to take most of that money, buy a real estate portfolio with it or a stock market portfolio. Here's what you could have done. The rental income or the dividend income or the returns or profits from the assets that you bought with the money that you didn't pay your mortgage down with could have kicked out enough income to pay your mortgage off for you, or at least pay off your monthly payments, even if it's just only interest only. So essentially, your mortgage could have become free. This is how I buy cars, and this is how I sometimes buy assets. It's definitely how I buy liabilities. I have, for example, one rental property, which has about 35 units in it. And that kicks off a six-figure income stream a year. And when that started to produce income, I raised other people's money to buy that deal. A private investor friend of ours put all the money in. I have a share. There's three of us that have a share. And I used my income to pay for my Lamborghini and my Ferrari Testarossa. Now, when I bought the Lamborghini, I put a deposit down, and then I got finance on the rest in an LLP company, which has lots of tax breaks. That's for another video on more money. But the income from the property paid off the finance on the car. The car's now owned completely outright. There's no finance on it. So I own the car for free, and I had all the use of the car for free, because instead of taking money and putting it into the liability that might go down and have all of that opportunity cost of the many hundreds of thousands, I invested in an asset. I used other people's money, and that asset paid for the finance on the car, and the car became free. And with the money you don't overpay on your mortgage, and with the money you're not doing on capital repayment, you can invest that into assets. Those assets can build. Then you turn on the income when it's big enough, and then the income pays for your mortgage, and your living costs become free. Now, this is definitely much more advanced, and it takes time to build up to it. But this is something that's possible to do when you know what you're doing around money. Okay, so the third main reason why I don't think you should be paying off your mortgage is inflation. Now, inflation pushes the prices of rents up. So therefore, it's better to own a home than rent, because your living costs are going up with inflation. Now, your mortgage payments are not going up with inflation. They're going down with inflation. So it costs about £200,000 more to rent the average house in the UK versus buying the equivalent. But over time, that expands even more, because inflation pushes the price of everything up, which includes the rents. So if it's £200,000 measuring today for the next 25 years renting, well, it could end up being £500,000 the nearer you get to the 25 years. But if you've got a mortgage of 200 grand, in 25 years, that mortgage is probably down to, could be relatively as low as 100 grand. If you work out 3 to 4% inflation a year, I mean, it's probably more, but you could work out the numbers. So when you only have an interest-only mortgage, or even a repayment mortgage, you allow inflation to pay it off, because inflation is essentially the increasing price of something. It's more complicated than that. I've done an episode on More Money about it. But as prices go up and rents go up and relative costs go up, the value of the debt goes down. So if 100 grand is 105 next year, well, 100 grand of debt is 95 next year. And most people don't understand how this works. I teach all these money concepts inside Money.School. But you want to allow the government to pay your mortgage off for you. How do you do that? Well, you just have mortgages, and then you let them do the backdoor paying off their trillions of debt. Imagine if the government announced on BBC News that they're going to pay off the 2.7 trillion, but actually it's more like 3.5 trillion, because we didn't tell you the truth. And we're going to start paying it off, and here's how we're going to do it. We're going to tax you even more, and we're going to use all the extra taxes to pay off our 3 trillion of debt. Of course, there would be outrage. That would push everyone over the edge. There'd be a revolution. So what they do is they just print more money. So they push the value of their debt down, because they push the relative price of everything up. If you think about it, if you have an amount of money in a system and you put more money into it, all the existing money in the system has less value. This is why Bitcoin keeps going up, because you can't print more Bitcoin. You can't create more Bitcoin, but you can create more money. So if they pump a load more money into the system, as long as they don't pump the same amount of goods and services into the system, because it's supply and demand, then the value of all the existing money in the system will go down, but the value of the existing debt goes down by the same degree, and that is your mortgages. So when inflation was double-digit % after lockdown, you were literally having the government paying your mortgage off by 10 or 11 or 12% a year. So let them pay off your mortgage for you. Okay, the fourth thing, and these are the tricks that the mortgage companies play on you. They know that maybe every 5 years, you're going to go and find a better mortgage because a new bank's going to come in and dangle an introductory rate and go, hey, come to us, we're cheap. So the banks know if you get a mortgage with them, even though it's a 25-year term, you might move after 3 or 5 years. So here's what they do. They front load loads of interest. So in the first 3 or 5 years of paying off your mortgage, you think it's capital repayment. You go, oh, great. I'm 5 years into paying off my mortgage. I've paid 1/5 of my mortgage off. And you look and you've hardly paid any off. You look at your statement. You still owe nearly all the mortgage. What happened? Because in the first few years, you're paying nearly all interest. And only in the last few years are you paying off nearly all capital. And they front load interest and they rear load capital on purpose because they know you're probably going to move from mortgage company to mortgage company to mortgage company. And if they made it equal and spread out, then they wouldn't maximize their returns. So for that reason, if you're going to move every 5 years anyway, then you should probably only have an interest-only mortgage because you're pretty much only paying interest anyway. But if you get an interest-only mortgage, then you've got lower repayments each month and then you've got disposable income. And then you can put your disposable income into assets and those assets can grow and those assets can kick out cash flow and that cash flow can start to pay off your interest-only mortgage for you. And then your mortgage is free. And then you worry about, well, what about when I get to the end of the term and I've got to pay off the capital? Well, if you've got assets that are paying off the interest, well, then it kind of doesn't matter. But here's the thing with property in the UK. A 100 grand house is 200 grand in 12 to 15 years. It's 400 grand in 12 to 15 years. It's 800 grand in 12 to 15 years. It's 1.6 million in 12 to 15 years. It's 3.2 million in 12 to 15 years. Don't believe me? Go and look at nationwide house price stats. Nationwide.co.uk house price stats. In the early 1950s, you could get houses for basically a couple of grand. Even in expensive areas in London, you could get houses for a few grand. And then, fast forward to now, and the average prices are 250 and then 300 grand. So 3, 6, 12, 18, 24, 48, 96. That's a lot of 12 to 15 years. Properties double in the UK every something like 12 to 15 years. In fact, in 1088, all the land and property was sort of valued for tax purposes in the UK. It was £1 million. £1 million for all the land, all the property, all the realty in the whole of the UK in 1088. I bet you if you doubled it every 12 to 15 years, you'd arrive at roughly 2025 and you'd arrive at roughly at the average value of £300,000 a house. You cannot fuck with 1,000 years of history. Okay. And then, of course, the fifth point, which I've kind of already mentioned, but an interest-only mortgage liberates more disposable income. It gives you a bit better a quality of life. Then you can take that money, invest in assets. You can borrow money at 4%. You can arbitrage and get returns at even 5 or 6 or 8 over a long period of time will give you really good asset and income. But in the last 15 years, the stock market's been 11 to 12% in a decent fund. So it's been 3 times the return. Now, look, most people don't understand all this stuff. And this is why I'm on a mission to help as many people on the planet get better financial knowledge. And I've been doing this for 20 years. I have 345 rental units, all of which started for many years using other people's money. I had one house that I converted from a repayment mortgage to an interest-only mortgage. I freed up some capital. I invested that in myself and getting on the investment property journey. I met my business partner, and fast forward to now, we have a property management company with 1,350 units, and we have about 345 properties that we own. We're buying 2 big central developments that are worth, all done probably 15 million end value, the 2 deals we've got through legals. So I've been doing this a long time and I've got a lot of experience, and I'm on a mission to help as many people on this planet get this kind of financial knowledge. This is not taught in school. If all this was taught in school, you'd probably be rich by now. And that's why I have Money.School. So my Money School is my global online school that's disrupting the mainstream education system. Because would you agree that proper financial knowledge is not taught at school or university? Imagine if it was. Imagine how rich you'd be now if you knew, the secrets that the rich know. So if you'd like to learn how to make, manage and multiply more money, build multiple streams of recurring income, if you'd like to get your earnings up and your tax bill down, if you'd like to learn how to invest and get the best returns, then I recommend you join Money.School right now. You can cancel anytime. There's no ongoing contract. So if you want to join right now and gain access to hundreds of hours of courses, resources and masterclasses to make, manage and multiply more money, go to Money.School. 90% of the content works anywhere in the world. We've got over 12,000 lifetime members across more than 100 countries. You're in really good hands. So thanks for tuning in. Remember to invest for freedom, choice and profit. And remember, if you don't risk anything, you risk everything.